So we're going to look at some image processing here. I like to work in sections on this, and so I'm going to go into line 4 to 9. I'm just going to run that section, and that's bringing in my image and just showing it to me. This is a downward view of a board game that we're making, and what I want to do is I want to look at just this section right here, because this white disk is going to rotate, and I'm going to want this to be perfectly in line with that before we start any moves or anything like that. And so I'm going to run image processing setup just to sort of check that those two are in alignment. So to do that, I'm going to go in and I'm going to crop the image. So I've got line 21 here is allowing me to sort of pull out values for it and crop it. Push enter. And I can see that I've got those over there, but I've also got them just hard-coded in down here. And so I'm going to run that section. And so now I've got just my crop right there to work with. Let me close it out. And now I'm just going to use IM tool to look at my image. And let me bring that up a little bit bigger for you. So now with it open, I'm going to sort of hover around in my image here. And you can see down here at the bottom, we get our XY position and our RGB value. And so what's happening is I'm just selecting spots and recording each of those and adding them to this Excel table. So I'm getting in so many of my alignment stickers, I'm getting in so many of my wood positions, so many of my white, and I'm writing those in there. And then all these are doing is just taking my red and dividing by green, taking my red and dividing by blue. And then I'm developing graphs to look at the differences in the ratios. And what I want is I want my alignment stickers, the first part of my graphs, to be significantly different from the rest of them. And so looking at this, I can see that my red-green ratio is probably the best to work with because these are all under 0.2 and everything else is around 0.8, where the other ones, at least the threshold, is just a little bit tighter between the two. So now in Matlab, we're going to pull out each of those layers. And so I've got my red layer, my green layer, my blue layer. And so we can see like how much green, how much blue. So like black would be extremely green, and then white would be less green, and so forth through that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to divide my red layer by my blue layer. And so what I've got is effectively this going in and grabbing cell 4, 5 on my red layer and dividing it by cell 4, 5 on my green layer. The dot makes sure that we're just doing that. We're not doing anything more complex. And MATLAB is going to do that for the whole image. I'm going to make sure if we ever divide 0 by 0 that it's not included is what's going on here. So now I'm going in and saying, hey, these are the values that are below 0.25. Those are probably my stickers, and we want to set those to be a 1. And so let's run this real fast. And so that gives me this image right here. And what's going on is effectively has taken everything that we consider to be these green spots and making it a 1, and anything that's not is a 0. And I can confirm that just by looking at found stickers here. If I scroll over and down here, you should be able to see it. This is our 0s and 1s going into it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to clean the image up a little bit. We're just saying, hey, count all the 1s and 0s next to each other. And anything that's under 1,000, we're going to want to get rid of. And so you'll notice over here, this image disappears and this little line disappears because they both, when we count up the values of the 1s, are less than 1,000, which both of these are greater than. Now, if I go down even further, I can clean it out a little bit more. And so we're going in and we're actually going to fill in some areas here. So let's run this real fast. And so I've got these two images. And then what I've gone through is I'm saying, hey, any spot that is a bunch of 0s in between a bunch of 1s, let's go ahead and make those 1s because that's probably our image. And now we're going to see it to be a little bit cleaner. And I can even go in and overlay my results in comparison there. So let's take a look at that. And so I can see I'm getting a pretty good setup there. So this blue area is the parts that's, this right here. And so I can go in, I can change and work with my threshold to increase that 0.25 to try to get more green if I want to, or less green, or I can just adjust the way I develop my model after this to incorporate that little gradient there. So now what I need to do is I need to find how those two stickers sort of relate to each other. To do that, I'm going to find the centroids of each of them. That's just going to give me a center point to sort of work with. Then I'm going to use the X and Y, like locations of those, and just sort of use it to be able to do the Pythagorean theorem here. So that's giving me that the distance between these centroids here is 88.4 pixels, which isn't very useful to me. So I need to develop a conversion factor for it. There's a couple ways to do this. The one way is I can just use IM tool, and I'm going to know the size of this sticker here. And so I can just go in, I can measure that and get the number of pixel values as I have. And if I know that's an inch, I can then do a conversion factor. The other way is going to allow it to work more dynamically, but you're going to deal with that little fuzzy area that we've got. So let's show you that one real fast. And so I'm going to go in, I'm going to run this section right here, and it's going to just put boxes around the areas that we've identified. Notice that that's a little short, but it is giving me information on that. And so this bounding boxes variable we just developed, it's giving me my top left X spot, my top left Y position, and then this is my width in the X direction and my height. And so I can just know that this is my 1 inch piece, and I can pull out this value to work with. And note it's a very similar number to the other one we had. Then what's going to happen is I can go in, I can pull out that value for the second item, that third column, and I can develop my conversion factor for it. So I have that my conversion factor is 0.0106. That's going to be changing with every project depending on the height of the camera. And then I'm pulling in my known value of 1 inch. I've got a conversion factor, and I'm just f-printing it back to me. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the distances between the centroids so I can sort of work with it. And I'm kind of cheating because I'm only going to use the Y values in the image. And this is going to develop it for me in both the pixel distance and in inches. And so with that being done, I now have a measurement to work with. And so I can go to my stepper motor and say, hey, I've got to rotate clockwise, and I'm going to be able to specify what amount from this information. And that's going to be dependent on how many steps of that stepper need to move that location.